Hello and welcome to the Wendell Effect for the Indian markets. I am Brandon Wendell and I'm going to guide you through my view of the Indian markets for the week of the 30th of April, 2023. Before we get started, just need to remind you we're not broker-dealers or investment advisors. We're doing this from an educational standpoint only, not telling advice or holding particular securities, giving personalized recommendations. Past performance, no indication of future results. There's always possibility of losing in the markets. And we're not subject to trading restrictions, so we could have a position in security initially one at a time. Please email me if you got any questions or you have any suggestions you'd like me to talk about. You can send that to me at brandonwendell.cmt@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty active there, at TraderBdub. I've been tweeting also about the Indian markets. And if you wouldn't mind, please hit like and subscribe for this video. It helps me out. And also maybe the alerts if you want to be notified for new videos coming out. So for this week, actually last month, you can see we're relatively bullish, only a few red spots on the Nifty. So pretty strong. And even last week, not as strong, but still looking relatively bullish here. So looking at the Nifty for the next month, it's kind of mixed. Overall, the past several years, we were somewhat bullish. Last year was the exception. It looks as though you can see we got some bearishness and then rally mid-month of May. So for the first 2 weeks of May, we're actually relatively bearish. 33% of the time over the last 15 years, we've dropped over 1.5% on average. So expect a little pullback before we can go higher. Well, looking at the Nifty weekly, we've been pretty bullish, but we're still not above 60 on the RSI. So that shows that we do have a little bit of weakness underlying that market. So we need to be above 60 with bullish momentum to break out to new highs. And we're coming back to retest this area, 18,150. It may fail this week or just stall out there. On the daily chart, it's interesting because actually the weekly, this might be left shoulder, head, right shoulder. So we should see a turn at this point for a possible bearish drop into our demand at 16,248. However, on the daily chart, we have an inverted head and shoulders, which is bullish, and we broke out. And we have plenty of momentum to keep going. So we may get our moves up, which is contrary to what we saw on the weekly chart, right? So it's kind of mixed markets here. We'll just have to see which one wins, weekly or daily. But it does look very bullish on both the daily and the 4-hour time frame, projecting to move up towards that 18,618. So keep an eye out for that. We definitely have lots of bullish momentum shorter term here. Reliance is not going to be one of the big leaders. We did break out with more momentum, but we are coming into a tested zone at 2444. Could be a little bit of a hindrance to go higher from that area. We could see a little bit of stalling in price at that point. So, yeah, Reliance just doesn't look very strong, even though there is a little bit more momentum. We're kind of stalling out with that momentum. So keep an eye out. We may just kind of go a bit sideways this week. TCS, we had a positive divergence, and we got that nice bounce off the lows, but we still haven't gotten above 60. We need to get above 60 on the RSI to break to a new high above 3263. Otherwise, it might turn around 3250. So watch at 3250. If we get enough momentum that the RSI on the daily chart is above 60, then we should push up towards 3263. I'm sorry, no, 3300, or even above that 3322. If we're below 60 as we come up to these prior highs, or even 3250 really is where we need to get above, then expect us to turn back down. So watch out for that. On Infosys, we obviously had the big move down on earnings and a very weak retracement so far. This just looks pretty much dead. We may drift higher, but I doubt we're going to get much above 1280 this week. We could just turn around from here. So keep an eye out to see, especially if we gap down, that leaves that as kind of an evening shooting star. Not shooting star, but an evening star with a gap up and a gap down. That would be very bearish, and we could see new lows. Most likely, though, we're just going to move a bit sideways. HDFC Bank on the daily chart, we are still just stuck, kind of sideways. We're losing momentum, which is suggesting we're going to keep going a bit sideways between the 1680 and 1660 area. So expect that choppiness back and forth for a little bit. ICICI Bank is a little bit stronger. As you can see, we broke out to new highs, both in price and momentum after the earnings. So we're not going to move very quickly, but we should see movement up towards 935. I don't know if we're going to get much higher than 940 by the end of the week, though. The Nifty Bank, looking at the index for the month of May, relatively bullish. Not much. I mean, you do see 60% over the last 15 years. We get about a 2% rally, but the first part of the month is a little bit bearish, just like the Nifty was. You have that move down before it moves up. So looking again at the first 2 weeks of May, we only go up 26% of the time. I'm sorry, we only go up that much. Most of the time we're going down with an average drop of 1.5%. So look for a pullback before a rally. And that's unfortunate because we've been very strong and we did go above 60 on our rally, but it looks as though we may just go a bit sideways or even drift downwards before we can go up to our target. Looking at the daily chart, we broke out of supply with lots of momentum. So perhaps this is the year that we continue to go up rather than drop before we rally. This is a very strong index and it looks like it wants to continue. And on the 4-hour time frame, we do see a bit of divergence. So that's where the weakness comes. You see, we lost momentum as we made new highs. So if we're going to pull back, I don't see us going down much. Maybe 42,750, maybe 42,000 if we close the gap. But that would be a buying opportunity for the index as I expect it to rally up. Following up on some previous trades we had M&M. 80% of the time goes up. We still have time left in that seasonal move, but we really haven't pulled back much. We're just kind of going sideways and drifting higher. Got to be patient. We do have a divergence, so we might pull back a little bit so we can get in before we rally. HDFC still has time left as well. You know, towards the end of April all the way till June, it's supposed to be somewhat bullish 80% of the time. And unfortunately, we're just going sideways, so we may not be able to get the entry here, but watch out. There's earnings coming. So when those earnings come out, it may drive us into demand to give us a nice bounce. For some new trade ideas for this week, we have Bajaj Finance. 90% of the time for the month of May, it goes up. It's a pretty good average return of almost 6%, with the exception, of course, of last year. So looking at the chart, you can see we have a nice daily demand zone, 58.28, 59.75. If we can get a pullback here, look for a buying opportunity to, well, first of all, I'd probably look for a target here about 6,400. And actually, if we drop down to 4 hour, we can fine tune this more. 58.28 to 59.50 as the entry with a stop below. Target just below the 4 hour supply, targeting 63.22, and just before the gap closes 65.37. And Hindustan Unilever, 100% of the time for the month of May and June, it is bullish over the last 10 years. Doesn't guarantee anything, but it's pretty high probabilities. So if we can pull back on the daily chart to demand at 2,200, right in that area to 2,300, look for a buying opportunity. Keep an eye out for the earnings, though. Do not enter before earnings. But that may drive us into the demand for the bounces to first target at 2,600, second target around 2,750. So that's what I got for you for this week for the Indian markets. Thank you for being here. If you got any questions or suggestions, send me an email, brandonwendell.cmt@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter @TraderBDub, and I do tweet about the Indian markets as well. Please, if you could, hit like and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. You can also get the alerts for when the new videos come out. I want to thank you for being here and watching. Until next time, trade safe, trade well, and take care. Thank you.